So, hey everyone, welcome to Sunday Assembly's 83rd assembly ever and the 14th one that we have done online. I'm Kristen Smith and I'll be your MC today. And in a minute, we'll have our opening song and you will see the lyrics in the chat part of the Zoom program. And we would love for you to sing. We won't be able to hear you. And it's also on your program, but a lot of people are having a hard time with the link to the program. So those lyrics will be in there. And because of the lag time, everyone will stay muted, but we can see you. And so feel free to wave your hands or clap. And because this is an online assembly, please feel free to edit your name in the Zoom feature to say where you're from. We have some people joining us today from afar. So what is Sunday Assembly? Sunday Assembly is a non-religious, inclusive community that meets once a month to hear great speakers, such as the one we'll be having today, sing songs, and share stories. In between our monthly assemblies, we get together for social activities and to do service projects. We aim to build bridges and to help everyone to, as our motto says, live better, help often, and wonder more. Every assembly has a theme, and today's theme is legacy. Today is a lot of things. June is Pride Month, so happy Pride. And this week we had Juneteenth, so happy Juneteenth. And tomorrow is the longest day of the year, so happy solstice, for my husband and mother-in-law in Lima, happy winter solstice. And today is Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers among us. And if we were in person at the assembly, we would tell you about our media-free zone, because we do film all of our assemblies, and this is also being recorded, so that people can go onto our website later and YouTube and see the assembly. So for today, that media-free zone is you disabling your video. We also offer childcare in person, and so today, childcare is yourself. And so now we're going to go into our first sing-along with our wonderful Paul Svensson.
Good morning, everybody. So great to be here again. After, what is this, the 11th online that we've done?
14th.
14th online. I may get used to this at some point. Oh, welcome to Sunday Assembly. I look on my screen and must say, to familiar old faces and new ones, we're glad that you logged in today. Sing that. We're glad that you logged in today. Hey, we're glad that you logged in today. Familiar old faces and new ones, we're glad that you logged in today. So you see how that works? We sing 4 lines and then we sing the last line a couple times and then the third line once and then the last line again. Don't worry about it, just sing. When the assembly is over, we hope that you don't have to run. We'd really like to get to know you, so stick around after we're done. Stick around. Oh, stick around after we're done. Stick around after we're done. We'd really like to get to know you, so stick around after we're done. We like to sing songs when we gather, so rock, pop, and ballads we croon. Raise up our voices in verses, and sometimes we sing them in tune. Oh, sometimes we sing them tune. Oh, sometimes we sing them in tune. We raise up our voices in verses, and sometimes we sing them in tune. And when we're all done with the program, and after we sing the last song, yourselves to one another, and you won't be a stranger for long. No, you won't. You won't be a stranger for long. Oh, not be for long. Introduce yourself to one another, and you won't be a stranger. So welcome to Sunday Assembly. We greet you with wide open door. We're certainly glad that you joined us to live better, help often, wonder more. Live better, help often, wonder more. Live better, help often, wonder more. We're certainly glad that you joined us to live better, help often, wonder more.
Thank you so much, Paul. That was wonderful. So as part of Assembly, every month we share some of our life events to help build our own community. And I have some of those announcements today. We call it Life Happens. Paul and Wendy Svensson close escrow tomorrow on their new house. Congratulations. Another one, Laura's Uncle Tom died last week. He was a lovely person and left behind 3 siblings, 3 kids, and grandkids. We're sorry to hear that, Laura. All right, Life Happens. Mark and I, so this is probably from Amy, Mark and I took our first plane flight since the pandemic and traveled to Houston for a Lord of the Rings themed wedding of internet friends. It was our first time meeting them in person, and we had a fantastic time. That is so cool. All right, and here's one from my family. My husband, Edward, is visiting his mother in Lima, Peru, and you can see them waving, and that's my mother-in-law, Sigrid. Hi, welcome to Sunday Assembly, Sigrid. And let's see, Suzanne just started a new business, Harmony Natural Wellness, health and wellness products. She'll be attending local farmers markets, and she's so excited. Congratulations. All right. This has been an eventful spring for Terry. In addition to moving, he recently shaved his goatee, which was quite shocking to some of us, stunning his friends and coworkers. He's also taking trumpet lessons and kayaking frequently. Way to go, Terry. And Wayne visited his mother in Kansas City for the 2nd time this spring, this time for her 100th birthday. She is not well, but was fairly alert and seemed to understand and appreciate the party. Wayne also enjoyed seeing some other family. That is wonderful. Oh, and you know, I think we have one other Life Happens. You know, I am your MC today, but I'm also your anchor person. And as you know, we've been doing these assemblies online, but I'm getting a message right now. We have a roving reporter from Bankers Hill, where our venue is. And Mark Leary has been on a mission to see if our old venue is still there. Is it like a hurricane? Has it survived the pandemic? Mark, where exactly are you?
Kristen, I'm live on the scene here at Bankers Hill Clubhouse. We're giving you some exclusive coverage that no one else has here from 33 Front Street at the Indoor Sports Club, the Bankers Hill Clubhouse, the former and one day future home of Sunday Assembly San Diego.
Oh my goodness, and that does look like the entrance right there. Can you go into the space where we actually have assembly?
Let me take you on a little tour for folks that have been here before. We can have a quick
Oh wow! Oh, that's where I get my
Sports Club.
And the stage, that's where we stand in front of. Oh, it's still there.
That's right. Hasn't changed. They've kept it in great shape. And we're going to be using it again someday soon at a future venue.
Wow. And you know, I think there's something we're going to be doing on July 4th. And I think we're going to be watching fireworks from the patio. Is the patio still there?
That is right, Kristen. The patio is still here. The patio has still got a great view looking over the bay. And we
Oh.
are going to have a wonderful event on the 4th of July to see the fireworks over the bay from this patio right here where I am standing.
Wow. Oh, that is so cool. Thank you so much. And is there anything else we should be seeing while we're there right now with you? I think you showed us pretty much all of it, huh?
Well, we've got facilities for banquets and childcare and all the usual amenities. So
And lemon bites, I hope.
usually we have
Oh, they're not there right
snacks.
now? Okay. 'cause I guess
Snacks and coffee
snacks.
go right
Okay.
back here behind me.
Right.
But
Okay,
coming
so they're
soon
not there now.
at a future event.
Okay,
That's
good.
right.
Phew, phew. Okay, well, I just had an idea. Maybe we can do part of the assembly from the venue right now. Is there anyone else there with you?
I think we can. We have Amy Leary right here on the scene. Perhaps we can get
Amy.
her to do a reading.
Yes, yes. Amy, would you be able to read The History Teacher by Billy Collins?
Why, yes. As it so happens, I happen to have the reading here with me.
Oh,
So I
that is
present for
exciting.
you now, The History Teacher by Billy Collins. Trying to protect his students' innocence, he told them the Ice Age was really just the Chilly Age, a period of 1,000,000 years when everyone had to wear sweaters. And the Stone Age became the Gravel Age, so named after the long driveways of the time. The Spanish Inquisition was nothing more than an outbreak of questions such as, how far is it from here to Madrid? And what do you call that matador's hat? The War of Roses took place in a garden, and the Enola Gay dropped one tiny atom on Japan. The children would leave his classroom for the playground to torment the weak and the smart, mussing up their hair and breaking their glasses, while he gathered up his notes and walked home past flower beds and white picket fences, wondering if they would believe that the soldiers in the Boer War told long rambling stories designed to make the enemy nod off.
Thank you, Amy. All right.
And
Well,
there you have it from the Banker Show Clubhouse. Back to you, Chris.
thank you, Mark. We're so glad to get that dispatch from the venue. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to go back to our Zoom, and we have our feature today. As you know, every month we have a featured speaker, and this month we have Regina Mason. She has spent 15 years researching the life and times of her great-great-great-grandfather, the pioneering fugitive slave autobiographer, William Grimes. Along with literary critic and expert William L. Andrews, Ms. Mason is co-editor of the authoritative 2008 Oxford University Press edition of The Life of William Grimes, the Runaway Slave. Her essays have appeared in The Race Card Project, various blogs, and The Root. She has presented many educational, corporate, and professional organizations, too many to mention here, and she executive produced the 2017 documentary film, Gina's Journey, The Search for William Grimes. We are so pleased that she agreed to share her and her ancestors' story with us today. And I turn it over to you, Regina Mason.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Well, good morning, Sunday Assembly San Diego. I'm going to share with you a talk that I gave in January in honor of the Dr. Martin Luther King holiday. And this was put on through the Berkeley MLK celebration in Berkeley, California. I think it's appropriate for the times. And it's a sort of harsh message because the reality of the struggle for African Americans in this country has been very, very painful. So with that in mind, I hope that you'll feel my energy and understand, hopefully, the message that I'm trying to deliver here. Now, the theme for the MLK celebration was Black Lives Matter. And I think it's fitting for the times as we as Americans grapple with the racial reckoning that is taking place as we speak in this era. So the title of this piece is "In the Fight for Racial Equality, Our Stories Matter Too." "I Can't Breathe" has become a metaphor for the over-policing of Black people in America. To understand how we got here, my ancestor, William Grimes, gives us first-hand insight. At a time when African-American autobiography was rare, William Grimes rejected the system that denied Black literacy by writing and publishing his life story. If you could advance the slide, Laura, please. Without permission or support from white people, his book, Life of William Grimes, the Runaway Slave, is a work of literary independence. Published in New York in 1825, it is the first fugitive slave narrative in American history. As we know, the United States is a rich, multi-ethnic society with a very storied past. But the American narrative has really never been fully honest or inclusive in the storytelling. Marginalized people in this country have had to fight hard against structural racism for their truth to be heard. Well, such is the case of my ancestor, William Grimes. His book, barely touched by scholars, was buried deep for 168 years before it reached across time to me. For 5 generations, fragments of the story, the family story, was kept alive until I was able to piece it together into my genealogy and make it yet again appear to the public. So it became my mission in 2008 to bring his story to a new generation. You can go ahead and advance the slide. So in 2008, after years of research, I co-edited a new edition of the Grimes narrative with Professor Bill Andrews. So what you see on the screen now is the Bible, one page out of a very old Bible that's in my family. And if you go down the page from the quarter up from the bottom, you see the name William Grimes and the death date of August 21st, 1865. This document revealed to me what I had been trying to piece together all along. It solidified that William Grimes was the author of the 1825 narrative. I wasn't able to piece that together until this family Bible surfaced. So it was just a treasure. But I want people to know that I would have still pieced this all together 4 years later after I started doing research in old newspapers. But this Bible piece would forever link me to William Grimes, the autobiographer. Let's go to the next slide as well. So in 2008, after years of research, I co-edited a new edition of the Grimes narrative with Professor William L. Andrews, who is an expert on African-American autobiography. William Grimes was born in King George County, Virginia in 1784 on the heels of the American Revolution. His father was Benjamin Grimes, a wealthy white planter who inherited Eagle's Nest. So we can actually advance the slides, and people forgive me, I'm not Zoom literate. So where I understand that it's quite easy to navigate through this, I think I'll pick it up one day, but I want to thank Laura for doing this for me. So Benjamin Grimes was a wealthy planter, as I mentioned. He was also the father of William Grimes, the runaway slave. And Benjamin inherited this estate, Eagle's Nest. And William Grimes's mother, I don't have her name. I still hope that I will uncover it in this digital age that we live in. But she was an enslaved Black woman who lived on a neighboring plantation and owned by Dr. Stewart. In the slave states, the children inherited the condition of the mother. And so although William Grimes's father was the wealthy Benjamin Grimes, he inherited the status of his mother. All right. And his mother was owned by Dr. Stewart. At the age of 10, William Grimes was sold to a far off plantation where he knew no one. He grew up to be a very rebellious slave. He endured 10 owners, 4 from Virginia and 6 from Savannah, Georgia. In 1815, he escaped from slavery as he hid among bales of cotton on a brig that would carry him from Savannah, Georgia to New York. From there, he made his way to New Haven, Connecticut, where he began a new life. But he began it as a fugitive on the run. He lived for 9 years in this quasi-free state of Connecticut, because while he was there slavery was still going on. It was part of that gradual emancipation process. So he lived in constant fear of apprehension, always looking over his shoulder. I mean, it just weighed heavy on his psyche. And I imagine that's the same pressure and fear that the undocumented live in today. When William Grimes felt someone was on his trail, he would pack up altogether and move to some other New England town. That's what fear did to him. 9 years later, after having lived in the free state of Connecticut, his worst nightmare happens. His master finds him. By this time, he's married, he's a father, he has children, and he owns property, and he's a barber by profession. He had no choice but to give up the deed to his home in order to pay for a freedom that was never fully recognized. So shortly after the ordeal, he begins to write his story. And it's a story that reads like no ordinary autobiography. Instead, to recount his life is to put the hypocrisy of American liberty and democracy on blast. Bill Andrews, my co-editor, says that his book reads like a list of grievances against the United States. And it was through Bill that I learned just how precedent-setting the Grimes narrative is. William Grimes was the first person to go through slavery in the South and write about it. I want you to feel the power of that. So for the first time in American history, you hear the voice of William Grimes, an enslaved man, telling you what slavery was like and what it had done to him. So he's not merely writing for himself. His narrative also gives voice to those who were never allowed to speak their truth. And William Grimes's book is significant for a lot of reasons, but in today's climate, It amplifies a deeply entrenched culture of the over-policing of Black bodies in America. And it also talks about the rise of the prisons system that was designed to keep Black people in place. His is the earliest account of this kind of system that would eventually grow into the police or the jail system, prison systems that we know today. He writes lucidly about the brutality, power, and control that overseers and slave drivers had on plantations that he lived on in the South. He also gives us insight to what it was like to live in an urban setting while enslaved in Savannah, Georgia, where they did not necessarily have the plantations to look over and after enslaved people. They had instead the Savannah Watch in the city of Savannah. And that was a group of white male citizens who were appointed to patrol the city streets in order to oversee the movements of Black people, free and enslaved. His account of the jail system, as I mentioned to you earlier, is one of the earliest knowns. He talks firsthand about the horrific and barbaric conditions, and he wrote about it. In Free New England, William Grimes describes his encounters with just ordinary white citizens who were empowered to deputize any Black persons with questions about why are you here, where are you going, and just about their whereabouts or their actions. So even in the North, it was very hard for Black people to carve out an existence, a life, even in free society. So today, we sort of see this same deputization played out. We have cell phones that capture ordinary citizens inquiring about the whereabouts of other Black people as if they're not supposed to be in certain spaces. So he kind of, his narrative sort of is a mirror to the past and even the present. And it illustrates for us how far we've come and yet how far we still have to go. Now, in terms of economic empowerment, William Grimes understood that home ownership would put him on solid financial footing akin to white people. So when his home was forced out of his hands and his family faced living in the streets, we could only imagine the impossible hurdle or mountain struggle that it would take for him to overcome that. And yet he really never did overcome it. He would never acquire the same amount of property, the money to that he had when he lived in Litchfield, Connecticut. But my research tells another outcome for the heirs of Eagle's Nest. And remember, you saw the estate earlier, that plantation still stands today. And that was the home of William Grimes's white father, Benjamin Grimes. Well, that plantation, which still stands, remained in the family for 300 years before it was sold to an outsider in 1974, the year I began high school at Berkeley High. His book ends with a very telling message that I'd like to read to you, I'm sorry. He says, I hope some will buy my books from charity, but I am no beggar. I am now entirely destitute of property. Where and how I shall live, I don't know. Where and how I shall die, I don't know. But I hope I may be prepared. If it were not for the stripes on my back, which were made while I was a slave, I would, in my will, leave my skin as a legacy to the government, desiring that it might be taken off and made into parchment, and then bind the Constitution of glorious, happy, and free America. Let the skin of an American slave bind the charter of American liberty. William Grimes. Dr. Martin Luther King once said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Well, Black Lives Matter, and our stories matter too. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. That was incredible. You know, if we were in person, we would probably try to have your books at the back table so people could see. And so I'm hoping that Laura might be able to put a link to, I think you have a website so that people who want to read it, I know I want to, it sounds amazing. So thank you so much.
Well, may I just say thank you. I want to thank you for allowing me to be in your space. I'm used to speaking in person. It's very hard for me to do Zoom, and I love the personal interaction that we can have with a live audience. So I hope that my story resonated with you all. And again, I thank you.
Thank you. And for everyone at the end of assembly today, we will have an opportunity for questions with Regina. So, we're really grateful that you're going to stick around for that. And so now we're going to go back to a song with Paul Svensson. I think we've got Nothing More by the Alternative Routes. Paul.
Thank you, Regina. What a great story. I must buy your book.
And the lyrics are in the chat.
Oh, good. This is a song we've been doing for quite a while, I think. Perhaps some of you know it, and if you don't, you'll pick it up easily. It goes like this. To be humble, to be kind. It is the giving of the peace in your mind. To a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. Try that chorus. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. To be bold, to be brave. To be bold and to be brave. It is the thinking that the heart can still be saved, and the darkness can come quick. Dangers in the anger and the hanging on to it. And we are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, and we are war. We are how we treat each other, nothing more. A little different here. Tell me what it is that you see. A world that's filled with endless possibilities. Heroes don't look like they used to. They look like you do. We are love. We are one. We are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace. We are war. We are how we treat each other, nothing more. Sing it again. We are love and we are one. We are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace and we are war. We are how we treat each other, nothing more. We are how we treat each other, nothing more.
Thank you, Paul. Whew, that made me choke up today. Don't mind me. That's that elevation feeling when you see a community doing good, can bring tears to your eyes. At every assembly, we have a personal moment. And before we go into today's personal moment, I would like to put out a call for all of you to be thinking about if you have your own personal moments to share. You can think of this in terms of a show and tell. How did you come to find and work on, or something that you love? That might be a prompt for you to think of something. Or what was an obstacle in life that you overcame? Any either of those. And then if you're interested and think you might be able to do it, we'll work with you. We kind of curate these, and you'll work with one of the organizers and write it out, and we'll give you a little bit of feedback. And so it's not like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do that. There's help along the way. And so for today, we are really grateful to have Suzanne Morgan step up with her personal moment. Suzanne? And let's make sure she's not on mute.
Yeah, there we go. Hello.
Wonderful.
I got volunteered into this by my son, by the way. He said, oh, you'd be great to do this personal moment. So watch out what your son says. And I did want to send out a special thank you to all fathers and stepfathers and everyone that acts as a father, including a lot of mothers that take that position too. Several years ago, the same son, Andrew, said to me, hey, Mom, I have something for us to try. It's not a church, but we get the fellowship and the companionship of being in church. At first, I resisted because Sunday was my time for Tai Chi and Mahjong, but the time slot would fit right between the two. So the first time I came to Sunday Assembly, I was so impressed with the love and the fellowship that I experienced. I decided I would like to continue attending this church that wasn't a church. And since that time, I've learned so much from our incredible speakers. I've shed a few tears and laughs during personal moments, and I've even enjoyed the sing-alongs. Thank you, Paul. I'm also so impressed with all of the acts of kindness that is at the core of Sunday Assembly members. I'm the type of person that likes to stay busy and try new things. So about 5 years ago, I signed up to be in a study at UCSD called MedX. The study is to see how exercise and mindfulness help older people remain physically and mentally alert. As part of my mindfulness training, I was supposed to do mindfulness exercise. So one of my friends suggested that we go to the YMCA and try some Tai Chi, as it is sometimes called mindful exercise. I became passionate about Tai Chi, and especially the teacher, Henry Ching, who is a 5th generation master and teaches the art. After 4 years of studying under Master Henry, I was honored when he asked me to join the advanced Tai Chi class at his wellness center. I also took up Tai Chi weapons, which includes sword and saber. However, they are made of wood, not of metal. Tai Chi has helped me improve my balance and my flexibility, very much so. And he also teaches a class on the Tao philosophy, which I've been attending. I'm also a walker. I love to walk at Mission Bay. I do it 3 times a week, walking 2.5 miles. The other days, I'm in my neighborhood walking around the hills. Andrew and I did that this morning, as a matter of fact. I recently joined a meetup group that walks around different neighborhoods. And in my spare time, I play mahjong. I belong to a book club. And I've also been involved in a number of different medical studies because I feel it's important to help develop new medicines and treatments for different illnesses. In my previous life, I worked in media sales, radio and newspaper. Part of my job was to write radio ads and newspaper copy. Therefore, I tend to write messages, letters, notes, in 30 or 60-second segments, because that's what you have to do when you're writing a commercial. When you're trying to convey a message in a short period of time, you tend to pick your words very carefully. I think that's why I enjoyed writing poetry. In the past, I wrote poetry when I was moved by a major loss, like when I lost my significant other, when I lost my mom and my best friend. However, in the last couple of years, I've been moved to write poetry for happy or unusual events, and in this case, COVID-19. I noticed that the Union Tribune was publishing some poems on COVID. So last fall, I think it was in October, I submitted one that I had written. I didn't hear anything until February. And then the writer at the paper asked me to submit a bio because they thought my poem might fit in with their page of poetry that they were going to publish. I submitted the bio the 1st of February and didn't hear anything. Then lo and behold, when I checked the paper on February 28th, there was my poem right on the front of the paper. And so now, in closing, I would like to read you my poem. I call it 2020 Vision. The year 2020 started out with a lot of hope, but by the end of May, we had reached the end of our rope. A strange foreign virus came to our shores, so we moved inside and shut our doors. As we worked to protect loved ones from harm, across the country, all sounded the alarm. Our world became more silent, peaceful and still, and everyone worked hard to cure the ill. Old habits of greed, they were quickly dropped when all the stores closed and buying was stopped. Families became closer and children played. In the yards or neighborhood, they stayed. We saw chalk drawings on the sidewalks. It's Zoom we used for our daily talks. Jigsaw puzzles and games became our passion, while workout clothes were the latest fashion. Something occurred that was quite bizarre. People would drive to Costco's near and far. Searching for toilet paper became the craze. The hoarding lasted for 100 days. Some kept safe at home, some did Tai Chi. Flowing the energy was good for me. We missed gym classes and meeting our friends. So many times it seemed it would never end. Some things about this virus we are still learning, but one thing's for sure, the earth's still turning. What's really important is the loves in our heart, healing the world as we stay apart. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. That was wonderful. That was wonderful. Thank you. So this segment is called the MC address, and I've been, we'll get into that now. So happy Juneteenth, everyone. I had not heard of Juneteenth until I moved to San Diego, and a few years later, in 2007, I first went to the Cooper family Juneteenth celebration. And so I was very happy to hear that on Thursday of this week, Juneteenth was declared and became an official federal holiday. I think people even had off, federal workers, on Friday. And from the Cooper Family Foundation website, which is a local family here, I learned the history of the holiday. Juneteenth is the oldest celebration commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. On September 22nd, 1862, Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, and it stated that all enslaved people were free as of January 1st, 1863. But in 1863, the Civil War was still raging, with Texas an active participant on the Confederate side. So it was 2.5 years later, on June 19th, 1865, that a couple thousand Union soldiers landed at Galveston, Texas, with the news that the war had ended and that all enslaved people were now free. The date was compressed. June 19th became Juneteenth, and it was celebrated every year thereafter by former enslaved people in Texas, and then spread, and their descendants, some making an annual pilgrimage back to Galveston on this date. Today, Juneteenth commemorates African-American freedom and emphasizes education and achievement. It's a day, a week, and in some areas a month, marked with joyous celebrations, speakers, music, and dance performances, family gatherings. It's a time for reflection and rejoicing. And now it's a federal holiday. From the incredible bravery of escapes from enslavement, like we heard about today with William Grimes, and the fight to end it for all of those enslaved, we are left with a legacy. And as a white woman, I have pondered my role in this. What was I handed down from my ancestors? What can I give to the future for my legacy? My father grew up in Memphis in the 50s, and he saw how horribly Black people were treated. I grew up in North Florida, which is pretty much South Georgia. I graduated high school in 1982, and my class was just the second class to have started kindergarten with an integrated school. And so that's to say that basically everyone in Gainesville, Florida, older than me, experienced formal segregation. My father tried to teach me and my brother better ways, more respectful ways. While others in town were still saying the N-word, in our house, it was forbidden. Our family and our tribe of hippies taught us that you don't have to follow the mainstream culture, and working for social justice was highly valued. So now when I hear people say, I'm colorblind, I haven't quite known what to make of it. It sounds good, but I'm not colorblind. I totally see color, and it impacts both my perception and also my thinking in ways good and bad. One time I was driving through North Florida from Gainesville to Tallahassee to visit my dad, and I stopped for gas. And so this was probably in the late 80s, early 90s, before you could use a credit card at the pump. And there was someone else getting gas also, a Black person. I saw him go inside to pay and then come back out to the pump while I pumped and then went inside to pay. I asked him if he always has to pay first there. And he said, why, yes. And I said, oh, I see. I don't think the gas station had an explicit policy or explicit bias, but I do think that the clerks, most of them anyway, clearly had implicit biases. It's part of being human. I have certainly not been immune to implicit biases either. I have felt myself clinch up with irrational fear, clutch my keys, my purse. I used to think that by noticing and acknowledging my implicit bias, and then with awareness, trying to undo it, that would be the way to change our society. And I do think that's a good thing to do. I just don't know now if that's the whole picture. A couple of years ago, my Aunt Randy, not my bio aunt, but part of my tribe in Gainesville, gave me the book, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi, right here. I had thought that I didn't have much more to learn in this arena. I had gone to workshops to unpack white privilege. I had grown up reading Toni Morrison. But in this book, Kendi explains the origins of the concept of race and thus racism. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Pre-modern slave traders were enslaving those, and so this is like way long time ago, 1200s or so, were enslaving those who we now consider to be African Arabs and also Europeans alike. And at the dawn of the modern world, the Portuguese began to exclusively trade African bodies. Prince Henry from Portugal, his sailors made history when they navigated past Cape Bojador off of Western Sahara and brought enslaved Africans back to Portugal. And this was all sponsored by Prince Henry. And then Prince Henry's first biographer and apologist, I'm probably butchering his name, Gomes de Zurara, he became what Kendi calls the first race maker and conveyor of racist ideas. He wrote the first European book on Africa. And despite all the different skin colors and languages and ethnic groups on the whole continent, Zurara blended all of these various cultures of Africa that were all being, kidnapped into one single group of people that he described as worthy of enslavement. He grouped all those people together for that very reason, to create hierarchy, which was the first racist idea. And Ibram Kendi continues, saying that he, and I think a lot of us, myself included, had been taught that racist ideas cause racist policies, and that ignorance and hate cause racist ideas. But as he explains it, that gets the chain of events exactly wrong. The root problem from Prince Henry to President 45 has always been the self-interest of racist power. Basically, the ideas came after to justify the policies, and then people fall for them and start believing it. And we see it happening today with voter suppression laws and the crap that's made up to justify them. So for me, in this book, How to Be an Anti-Racist and this kind of thinking, it was a new way to look at the issue. And I think the beauty of the way of looking at it is I don't have to pretend to be colorblind. I can certainly try to become aware of my implicit bias and face it and practice undoing it. And I'm going to keep doing that. But I can also work for policies that undo racist effects, and that will have a really good impact. So I looked up suggestions for ways to support Juneteenth and freedom. And this would be in addition, what I'll tell you about is in addition to supporting voter rights bills and laws to reform the police and getting rid of sentencing inequities and all the rest. But one of the suggestions I found on that website for San Diego's Juneteenth was on a more daily life level to support Black-owned businesses. So we're putting a link in the chat for anyone who wants it. And it kind of sounds like a small thing, but I think it does have an impact. And I was looking at the businesses, and I must say that a big bonus is that Hammond's in North Park has the absolute best ice cream. And so I'm going to suggest that you go there for Father's Day, and happy Juneteenth. So now we'll have our moment of silent reflection. All right. So we have our announcements now. Taco Tuesdays is on Zoom at 6 p.m. just to chat and check in with your people. And if you haven't done it, you're still welcome to join. And game night is every other Thursday. So you can keep an eye on Meetup and Facebook for those. And we have some fun new in-person events coming up, and those are also listed on Meetup and Facebook. Yesterday we went bowling in East County. That was fun. We'll play croquet on Sunday, June 27th at 5 p.m. So that'll be a lovely evening together in Balboa Park. And on July 4th, as we talked about when we went to Mark at our venue, we're excited and pleased that we're going to have our first event back there at the venue in Bankers Hill, where we hear that the fireworks viewing is excellent and there's parking too. So come anytime between 6 and 8:45 p.m. because the fireworks start at 9. And we'll provide the pie and beverages, and we hope you'll provide you and your family because we miss you. And then Saturday, July 10th at 6 p.m., Michelle will lead a slow bike ride through Balboa Park. All right, so now we're going to go to our last song with Paul, Walk the World. Paul?
Okay, and the words are not in the program because we're going to do this old school. Got my big old Pete Seeger 12-string here. The song is Walk the World. I'll sing a verse and then we'll do it together. Walk the world now, children. Walk it now with me. Walk the world now, children. Walk it now with me. Walk the world now, children. Treat it lovingly. And the world will last forever and a day. Got it? Walk the world now, children. We do that 3 times. And then we sing Treat It Lovingly, which is almost all the verses. And the world will last forever and a day. Shall we try it together? Walk the world now, children. Walk it now with me. Walk the world now, children. Walk it now with me. Walk the world now, children. Treat it lovingly. Treat it loving, and the world will last. And the world will last forever and a day. Breathe the air. Breathe the air now, children. Breathe it now with me. Breathe the air now, children. Breathe it now with me. Breathe the air now, children. Treat it lovingly. Treat it and the world. And the world will last forever and a day. Drink the water. Oh, drink the water, children. Drink it now with me. Drink the water, children. Drink it now with me. Drink the water, children. Treat it lovingly. Treat it loving, and the world. And the world will last forever and a day. Work the land. Work the land now, children. Work it now with me. Work the land now, children. Work it now with me. Oh, work the land now, children. Treat it loving. Treat it loving, and the world will last forever and a day. This one's a little different. The verse is stand for justice, children. Stand up now with me. Treat others lovingly, and peace can last forever and a day. Let's try it. Stand for justice, children. Stand up now with me. Stand for justice. Stand for justice, children. Stand up now with me. stand justice chill. Treat others loving, and the peace can last forever and a day. Walk the world now, children. Walk it now with me. Walk the world now, children. Walk it now with me. And walk the world now, children. Treat it lovingly. Treat it lovingly. And the world will last forever and a day. And the world will last forever and a day. One more time now, and the world will last forever and a day.